Hey everyone, so this is one of my games that I played recently, and I thought it would be interesting to go over and just see from the perspective of, at the time I was rank 1334, just the perspective of that kind of level of play, what sort of mistakes people are making, what sort of plays I'm doing, what sort of mistakes I'm making, so that if you're around this rating, around 1000 to 1400, then you'll notice similar things in your games as well, and you'll be able to learn from them. So in this one, let's take a look. We open with the Queen's Gambit, and he declined it. And we can see here that he's gone for an Indian defense, which can transition into what's called the Nimzo. I'm learning things about the different openings. Like if he brings his bishop out here, this is the Nimzo, and this here is sort of like what is it, the e6 d5, and having a knight on f6 is sort of one of the most standard ways to defend against the Queen's Gambit and to decline it. And so in this game you can see that I've continued by going knight c3, and which is pretty standard, and then he's actually gone to b4, which is also pretty standard. Now I've noticed, and this is something quite new that I've noticed, and so it might be interesting for anyone who plays Queen's Gambit, but I wasn't actually valuing these pawns very much previously, but I was told, and I've been told multiple times by people that are much better than I am, that having these two pawns and keeping them on the edge is really important. Like, so we could, if we wanted to, leave this knight here, and he's currently, or she, is currently defended by this pawn. However, him being able to take, and then me taking back with the pawn on c3, actually is quite important, and it weakens our pawn structure on the queen side quite drastically, to the point where our opponent gets a good advantage from doing so. And so what's much better to do in the future is to defend it either with our queen by going to queen d2 or b3 or even a4. C2 seems to be the best square to do it. So we could either go there, or we can defend it by going to d2 with our bishop. Right now, after playing this opening for a while, it looks like going to d2 is the opening that gives white, at least for our range, if you're in the same range as me in terms of elo, seems to be the place where it gives us the best opportunities, because it means that we can line up our queen and our bishop on the same diagonal, and it means that if he does take with his bishop, we actually take back with our queen, and our queen's protecting both of these two pieces, because that's generally what the queen does. It protects this middle piece, and it's advantageous compared to defending with the bishop, because if you notice, this piece is being defended by a queen, and if the middle ever opens up, this is actually quite a common tactic for our opponents to do against the Queen's Gambit, is especially against beginning players or new players like me or you, is to get us to block this pawn's defense by moving the bishop out. So it's quite a common tactic people do. So to avoid all of that and to do quite a strong move, c2 is pretty good. Okay, so we bring out our other knight, because at the time being we didn't know this at all, but now we do after analyzing this game. Other knight's fine. He's gone b6 and looking to fianchetto, and we've gone g5 with our bishop to try and put some pressure and pin this knight to the queen. Pretty standard stuff from the Queen's Gambit. He's fianchettoing, which is not something I usually see, but we're just going to continue playing here. And so already this is kind of non-standard from what I'm used to. And now I move my bishop back here. Taking is something now I will generally do. Not taking isn't really, I mean, you can do it if you want to, but it's advantageous for you to take. I think this bishop isn't that strong. I do very well when I do take, and here we see why, is because now he can move his knight in, and he can defeat it quite easily by going to f5. And it's very difficult for me to actually take this knight out, because now I have to do a3, or I have to go to move my queen in to get rid of this bishop. But even when I get rid of it, this is a weak point, so everything's already falling apart for me here. We do use the queen to defend. However, we can't even take back with the queen, so now you see what I mean about this pawn structure. We've got a double pawn. We've only got one pawn here to attack with if we wanted to attack on the queen side. And so, and we've got this terrible pressure from the knight. So this could have all been avoided. And now we have to use our strong bishop, which is the light square bishop, which has now been hindered by this pawn. Both of our bishops are kind of weak in this game now because of how we've set it up at the start. And then now, for some reason, I've done some moves to make, and I made myself a bit weaker, but this isn't what we wanted to see anyway. I wanted to show you guys a bit later on with how the game progressed and the mistakes you see people make. But this is also a very common mistake for people to make, is this pawn is the weak point, and you can see here it's currently free. There's nothing defending it because I moved my queen away, and it's very easy to forget about it, I think. And you'll notice this in a lot of your games as well. If situations go out of hand, usually you forget very easily, or there'll be a lot of things to remember that you're not used to remembering, to defend or to attack when things change. That's probably one of the biggest things that I notice when I play games that are a bit different. People do different lines, is that you forget to like defend certain stuff or attack certain things because you're just not used to doing it. You're used to doing different lines. So he ultra defends this knight. We bring the rook in. I think we were intending on pushing here or something like that, but then now obviously we've just given him a pin, so maybe not concentrating very much in this game. Gave away the rook. He just reinforces the knight here, and now we're really behind in material. We have 4. He's +4 on material. We're boxed in. He's got so much more space than us, so it's looking pretty grim. And here is the saving grace. All right, so something that we 1000s to 1400s are doing, I think, is practicing puzzles and getting good at tactics. And this is one of the ways you can get back in the game, by understanding tactics. So right here, it might seem like we're throwing away our knight, and I don't even know what I was doing in this game. I'll have to relook. But let's just have a look at it. So if he takes right now with the pawn, then he's opened up his queen on this file, and what else is going on here? It looks like we can also take back with our bishop, and he's also undefending this knight. So there's a few things happening, and if he doesn't take right now, then we can get in here and fork the king and the rook. So he's encouraged to take, and also this, when we take back with the queen, it's also check. So good for us. So he's encouraged to take, but instead, and this is a very common thing, people will, by mistake, find, they'll defend it in different ways because they see the tactic, but then they won't find an efficient defense for it. So you see here, that's exactly what our opponents tried to do. And so we take, because what happens if he takes back our queen? We fork the king and the queen. So, tactics, really important to learn. Takes the queen, we fork the king, we take, and it was just an even trade for us. But we are now more developed than our opponent. I guess this was kind of like, maybe not more developed. This was more just me, flexing that tactics muscle. And you can see that, and maybe in a better circumstance, we might have actually come out ahead. Picking up some free material. And here is the crux. Like, this is the part that really matters, and something like the way you can bring back your games a lot of the time is through these kind of tactics. I'm setting up here. I'm not actually entirely sure what my plan was, but you can see here, like, I've set up this line that, if I check the king, then and maybe move this bishop, then my opponent's going to be exposed to more tactics. So we'll see what they do. They line up correctly. And then here I did basically a Hail Mary play. So this was a mistake by me to line these things up. However, I was already losing, so it's kind of like I want to try to do some sort of Hail Mary play. Ended up moving to C. No, go backwards. Okay, and then he lines up to do because he wants to double his bishops. I'm pushing in, whatever, and then I go back. Okay, so here was the Hail Mary play. So it's a bit of a complicated situation. It looks complicated. But if he takes here, I take back, then he can take again, which is great, right? Problem is, I have a check right here when I take this rook. And oftentimes you can surprise your opponents with this. So one of the most common overlooked tactics is a boomerang tactic where you've got a knight and a bishop, and you can use your knight, which is blocking the bishop, to take out another piece, and then if that piece is taken back, if another piece takes your bishop, you can actually boomerang your knight back and take that piece that took the bishop. And but it's a very hard tactic for beginners to see. It's sort of like hard for us to visualize a piece moving and then coming back to the same place or a similar square, because pieces are already in those spots, so it's hard to see. But in this case, you can see that my opponent made a very similar mistake. I check very easily. He can take back, and he can have that piece. However, I think he completely missed it, and this rook is currently hanging. He completely misses it and moves his king instead. And now I'm up 2 pieces. And purely from just a tactical blunder, not being able to see, how to get even a material or whatever. And he wouldn't even be even, he would have been behind anyway. But a very easy thing he could have done here, instead of getting overconfident, was just to take the bishop. But yeah, always something to look at. Very, very common thing that will happen in your games at this level is people like me, when they're behind, will do random sort of things that look really strong, and oftentimes, or sometimes they are really strong, sometimes they're really weak. But in any case, you really need to be looking out for and when you're ahead, and something I always fall victim to as well. When you're ahead, take the time to, like, he's got 10 minutes on the clock, I've got 1 minute. Take the time to just secure your victory. Like, something I'm learning over and over again is I keep making the same mistakes when I'm ahead. I sort of disregard all my opponent's attacks because I'm sort of like, I'm already ahead on material. There's nothing they can do really that's, everything they do is kind of just like tickling. But to respect your opponent until the end of the game is really important. But that's everything I want to show you today. I hope you guys enjoyed and maybe learned something from this opening, or got to experience something a bit different. And appreciate you guys watching. Hit that subscribe button if you're interested in following on the journey, and I'll see you later.